My name is Mark Murphy, and I worked for Inland Asphalt when I was president of the AGC. Well, I followed Mark Poe, so he kind of showed me the ropes, and I had Bob Askins, and then Carl Stewart right behind him, and then Vince Campanella actually came up right behind Carl. Well, the biggest issues that we faced was, we were in the middle of the Great Recession at that point. We were a couple years in, but highway funding was at the very, very top. We had some Tiger grants that we had received, and Congress was going through some reauthorization, so it was a full court press on funding from the federal government. A big part of the goal, again, was the funding, and Wayne and myself and many other people worked with a coalition to form a group called Keep Spokane Moving. A lot of people remember that. One of our central Premex mixer trucks, I think Spokane Rock, we had logos painted on our trucks to push that going, but that was in partnership with GSI, who I was a former board member of, and I was a current board member at the time of Good Roads Association. So we had a really good partnership there and formed Keep Spokane Moving, and it was full court press on North Spokane corridor funding from the federal government. I think in the winter we did a transportation construction council fly-in, and then we did another one in the summer, and the summer was hot. I remember that. It was 90 some degrees, and of course you're wearing your dark suit and going from the Senate offices over to the representative offices and back and forth, and but it was well worth it. We were successful, and if you don't participate, the money's going to go elsewhere. And I thought the whole industry did a really good job, and we did secure some really nice funding, which helped keep a lot of people busy in Spokane and stimulate the economy and kept all our workers going, and that in fact trickles down. So. Well, at that time, I think for us in the asphalt business, there were some paving projects that were out there that were some local stimulus, and then we did get some. We started working on the North Spokane corridor, and it was really, we had some projects done, and it was we need a steady flow of projects that's on the calendar for years to come, so that people could organize their companies properly, because during the recession, a lot of people lost their jobs and a lot of companies were reorganizing, and we needed to know is this where we're going to be for a while, or is it more temporary and there's going to be a good flow of construction work? And luckily we were successful, and things kind of bottomed out, and then it was up from there. So. Well, the staff was very enthusiastic. We did a lot of things on safety and other things, but Wayne and Cheryl did an outstanding job. Wayne bringing groups together, and there were no turf wars. We were all in it together, and I thought that was the one thing that really impressed me, was the collaboration, and it wasn't about who's going to take credit for what. There was definitely a goal in mind, and it was really good to see from a community standpoint, and someone that served on several of the boards. It was really good. Well, I guess I was kind of born into construction. Being the fourth generation Murphys in construction. Started with my great-grandfather, who was He ran a steam shovel for the Great Northern Railroad and then started the Central Premex concrete here. But my first job was mowing the lawn at the office at age 12. First day I mowed the lawn was May 18th, 1980. Had to cut it short because the ash started falling. And then one of my other side jobs was running blueprints over at the Central Premex Pre-Stress. And then the gravel pit when I was 16, 17, 18, and then worked in dispatch taking concrete orders through college. And then I worked for Kiewit, Pacific, building bridges, and worked on Bonneville Lock, which is probably the biggest project I've ever worked on. Out of college, that was my first career, and then after 3 years I moved back and did our portable concrete work. So we did some Air Force bases and airports and highways and things like that. I can. So Central Premex was founded by my great-grandfather, William Murphy, in a great year. He picked a good year, 1930, right in a depression. That's a Murphy's Law type thing. Took him a few months to make a first sale. The stories I've heard is everybody thought he was completely nuts because all the contractors in town would say, why would we pay you to make our concrete when we can make it ourselves on site? At that point, everyone made it on site, but he was convinced by this engineer named Herb Sullivan, who went to work for our company, but who worked at the Grand Coulee Dam, that the new wave in construction was making the concrete at a central location and trucking it to construction sites, which everyone thought was completely insane. It turned out it wasn't. So he ran the business, and my grandfather, John Murphy, worked for the business in the 30s. He went to WSU, and his job was to learn about business because my great-grandfather, he was a construction worker. He came to Spokane working with the Great Northern running steam shovel. So he ran steam shovel. He sold the steam shovel in 1930 to start this company, and he had a pretty successful contracting business. He dug the basement for the Paulson building and many of the old buildings in Spokane he worked on. And then my grandfather, out of college, he had a business background, and he began really expanding the company in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s. And then my father Dan and my uncles Mike and Tim, of course, went into the business and expanded the business even further until the business was sold in '97 to CRH, which was known as Old Castle here. For me personally, the biggest one was Bonneville Lock. My first one I'll never forget, though, was my first project, and it was with Kiewit. The last part of I-5 between Canada and Mexico was 4 bridges over the Sacramento River by Mount Shasta. So I worked on that. But here in town, here in the Spokane and Washington area, the biggest projects, providing the concrete on the Spokane Arena, McCarthy Athletic, much of the North Spokane Corridor, the asphalt on North Spokane Corridor, Sunset Hill, I-90, a lot of paving jobs around here. Well, I suppose it always changes like this, but of course the biggest change that I've seen is the consolidation that took place in the asphalt businesses and the concrete businesses. Starting in, I saw Acme, Don Herrick sell his business, and then we sold our business in '97 to Old Castle. In 2000, we purchased Acme, and then in I think 2004, we sold Acme Paving to Tim Welsh, and you saw the rising of Spokane Rock Products, and then later Coeur d'Alene, Knife River, and then some more acquisitions and consolidation. It's been, you need a chart to keep track of everything, I think, in the last 20 years. The organization of the AGC and other agencies are extremely important for a business because it's really hard to be a successful business and a successful employer if you're not in a successful industry. And to try it alone with the complicated nature of government funding and government regulations and other things is just, I don't think that's a good business decision. I think it's good to collaborate with your industries, and again, rising waters raises all boats, and it's too big to handle by yourself, and it's the right thing to do. We are the AGC.